All right. Yeah, welcome to my first ever tutorial that I'm gonna sell online. So yeah, if you're here, then thank you for the purchase. I appreciate the support. So enough with the pleasantries. Let's get into it. I know that you want to know the juice like right away. So yeah, let's get into it. So in this series of videos, I'm not gonna talk about, the whole pipeline of my process or anything like that, right? I'm gonna touch on a lot of it, but, in this case, we're gonna focus on, as I would have titled the video descriptively, but we're gonna talk about how I go about making image such as this. And what is this image, right? This is basically a personal work that I did like a bit ago. And the goal of this was I was trying to emulate the look of a Tarkovsky movies, like film screenshot, like Andrei Tarkovsky. So those Soviet era films, by him, I'm trying to replicate. So that's basically the goal of this personal project. And now I'm gonna teach you how to make something similar to this. So here are some outputs from this course that I did. Right, you can see here. Oh, you can see that the black bar is not so black. But yeah, so this one's pretty similar to all what we had, even the same assets, I think, for this one. And for this one's kind of different, but still the same workflow. Right? And you can see, if you can, the theme is, it's pretty, I'm trying to get pretty graphic with all of these and pretty, like, besides this one, I'm getting myself into some really soft light scenarios, right? So you can sort of see the pattern here. And how, in terms of how I go about approaching, even doing the compositions, how to find them, and how to light the stuff, then I think we can before we get into that, we can analyze first our reference. So because I'm doing Tarkovsky-esque images, like the best thing that you can do is then collect some Tarkovsky screenshots. So I went ahead and collected it through ShotDeck. So I think this is also a great practice for everybody that wants to do this kind of thing, like meaning like cinematic type of work, or honestly any type of work. I think just gathering some works that you like and studying them correctly, not just seeing how cool they are, but really analyzing them is going to be really helpful. So let's spend some time to analyze some Tarkovsky shots, right? So there are several things that you can see here, like that's the constant of every single screenshot that I grabbed here is the composition, first of all, is very beautiful, right? That's a constant on every single one. And then, obviously, it's Tarkovsky. And then the second thing that's a constant about the composition is how graphic it is and how simple he's willing to go with his frames. Like, sometimes it's just a person, sometimes a person with some trees, and sometimes it's just, a person on some tall bushes and then walking into a building. Sometimes it's even just some water body, and simplicity is what I'm trying to point out here. Like how simple his frames are, how there's not many, how minimalistic it is, not maximalistic, right? And this is the thing that I think many people who did like environment concept art struggle with when they're trying to do some, quote unquote cinematic like frames, is they tend to want to show everything at once. While, if you're trying to replicate a cinematic look, then that's like the further, well, maybe you can do it, but for me, that's like the furthest thing from it. Like, what you should do instead is effectively tell your stories with strong composition, because the medium of film, like it's a medium that relies on time, right? And you can only show a certain image during a certain second or something like that. So every single image, like, needs to be as impactful as it can be and needs to tell the story as effective as it can be. So if you're trying to tell a story about two-person fighting each other, then the shot should be only about them. It shouldn't be about, okay, this two-person is fighting each other and there's a cool car behind it, a yellow car, and then the building is really cool behind it. So you're using a really wide lens to show everything. Though that what makes your frame look not cinematic, right? So with that being said, you can start to see the theme here. Okay, what's this? What's this about? Okay, it's about this lady smoking. Okay, right, cool. What's this about? You know, this is about the family here being sad, looking at a burning house. So that's it, right? They're running here. It's about this person in this house, you know, and it's about this person, you know, moving in this landscape, you know, dragging his bike along, and that's it. There's nothing else. You don't see him like focusing on any other thing that's not important, like immediately important to the story, right? So there's that, right? That's the mindset you should move into this project with. Now, another thing that's a constant in his work is also like I've mentioned this before. I think it's how graphic it is, meaning each image like has a really nice look to it that makes an aggregate of a nice shape. And what that means is it's better to show you by doing this, turning on the threshold. So it's graphic precisely because, you know, when you reduce it down to two values, you can sort of clearly see what happens, right? And this, everything is green besides them and some parts here and some house. So, and then the arrangement is also really nice, right? It's a beautiful arrangement, right? You can see this arrangement happens here. This too, like it's really, everything's really beautiful. This too, right? And the fact that he's got a wood here that's a light shade, it creates nicely into her face, like it leads it nicely. Like, and even this composition too, like look how beautiful it is, right? And then on this one, you can clearly see what happens. This is the same. This is even like more insane to me. This is even clearer what happens. Like this also, like, so I think the key is if you extract what's happening here is, you know, the easiest way to achieve this is to think about your subjects as just subjects and not actually not some, like, if what I'm trying to say is if you're trying to do like a similar story to this, right? Once you get into the headspace of thinking them as people and there's a car, you start to be too smart about it, right? But when you just think about them as shapes, then you can sort of arrange them as shapes. So this is an example. If, all right, look at how the spacing between the mom and the child and the other child here, you know, is really has a rhythm to it. Instead of spacing it them evenly, you know, he purposely, like intentionally, made it so that they two is group and this one is alone. So then when you see it as shapes, then it creates a beautiful arrangement. I hope my point came across clearly. Like same with this one too. Like it's the same thing going on. A grouping. This tree as well, right? They group the trees, you know, and this. I know that trees happen naturally, but the angle that you can take them from, like I think that affects it too. Like even this, you know, there's a reason why this is placed here, this is placed here, this is placed here, is to create that beautiful arrangement of shapes. And there's a reason why they walk like this, is to group them together and he's far away, right? Even how they're standing here is grouped really nicely. So that's another constant that you can see in compositions of Andrei Tarkovsky. It's a masterclass. You should really study his films in terms of composition. And he also uses like leading lines like this. That's really beautiful, right? Even when it's not clear, you can sort of see some leading lines here happening, right? It's just he has this really nice sense of photographic composition that's really well developed. So again, study it. You'll never regret studying a Tarkovsky work. So now, for those of you who might have taken my mentorship, like you might have known that my approach is kind of unorthodox in a way, but I think many people are doing the same thing as I did, but you know, I only know me who does something like me. Like, meaning, how I find my compositions is I don't do thumbnails, at least not anymore, right? And I don't do sketching either. And but I did like sketch in Blender if I have like a clear image of what I want to do, right? And I usually have like sort of a composition thumbnail in my head of what I want to happen in the frame and how I want to arrange them. So I think that comes with practice. The more you practice, the more you can like visualize something clearly in your head and just put them into a canvas. But if I'm trying to do a sequence of frames, we won't get into how I do them, but I would, if you see the post here, like I would model the whole set first. This is for my short film, by the way. I would model the whole set that I might use, and then I'll find the compositions much later. Then, and then on those things that's pretty clear already, on the compositions that I have already in my head, then I will just do them. You know what I mean? I hope that came across clearly. Again, we won't get into my sequence process because we're just doing one image here. So let's go ahead to see some sketches.